Hey there. Happy Tuesday from Washington, D.C. I'm Bobby Klink from Your Online Genius. Wanted to go live today to talk about the value of learning from other people and to talk about how we as entrepreneurs can learn from other people and take learning and take pieces of knowledge and wisdom from some places that you might not expect, but also from people who've been there before and can really help us. And so I wanted to talk about that. But before I do, just a quick reminder about who I am. Again, I'm Bobby Klink. I am an online entrepreneur and an intellectual property lawyer. I'm building an online business, so I talk about issues related to online business, online entrepreneurship, and obviously I also talk about legal issues. But today is not about legal issues. Today is about business building. What got me thinking about this issue was actually watching the Super Bowl. I love watching the Super Bowl. I love the game. That can be fun, and that's great. But I also love the commercials. And it's kind of funny. I used to love the commercials just because they were funny. And I used to enjoy watching them. But now, as an online entrepreneur, I love to watch the commercials to see what I can figure out. What can I learn? Because when you think about it, the Super Bowl, these big brands are pulling out all the stops. They have hired, the top marketing and advertising people, and they are putting their biggest, best ideas to work. And then they're spending millions of dollars in the actual time. So if you think about it, some of them aren't going to be good, but theoretically, these should have some real nuggets and kernels of wisdom that we can take. Sometimes you have to search and figure out what it is because you can't copy, their ads, but you can take ideas from it. And so I always look at the ads from that perspective. And what I really enjoyed in this year's game was Tide's commercials. And it's kind of weird. This is the first time I can ever say I enjoyed Tide's commercials, but I really enjoyed them. And I got some really great kind of kernels of wisdom by thinking about what they did and thinking about how you and I can apply that to our businesses, because I think we can. So, I kind of pulled 5 kernels of wisdom out of their ads and 5 things that I thought, hey, this is something that we should take and try to apply to our business. So the first one of those was, what was really cool about their ads is they told a cohesive story, even though they had multiple spots. And they told a cohesive story, which was based upon this simple idea that, hey, this ad is brought to you by Tide because the clothes are clean. And so they had that kind of story and that hook in all of them. But the great thing was, and maybe this is me, but I loved it because each one of the ads made sense standing alone. You didn't have to see the first one to understand the last one, etc. You could watch any one of them by themselves. But at the same time, when you put them together, you were kind of in on it and in on the joke. And so when you saw the second one, it was funnier than the first one was, maybe. And then you saw the third one, and there was even at one point when they were coming back from commercial, the voiceover, which was saying, that this, they said the game is brought to you by Tide and Tide and Tide. And so it was making a joke of it. But the point is, the whole thing was telling this cohesive story, but it was also not so wedded that you kind of had to see it all. And I think that is a valuable lesson for us to learn. But the point we have to understand first is you have to figure out what is your story. But once you figure out what is your story, and you figure that out by doing a lot of the hard work when you're starting your business, or maybe, even after you've started, you need to come back to that. But once you figure out your story, then you can start to put everything kind of in that box. So you can put your email marketing in that box. You can put your social media in that box. And you can really start telling a cohesive story of your brand. And you can do it over and over again through each one of these things. Now, sometimes you're going to have pieces that don't fit, but I think if we can focus on telling a cohesive story through all of our marketing, we will all benefit. So then the second element I took out of their ads was that they used curiosity and unexpected in a way that was fantastic. So I don't know about you, but often when I'm watching those ads, I'm wondering, what are these ads for, right? And pretty quickly you get a sense that, oh, well, this is a car ad. I don't know which car. You get, oh, this or that. And they played on that, right? You had no idea what their ad was for, their first ad, until the end, because you're like, wait, what is it? Is it a car ad? Is it you had no clue. And then they let you in on the secret. And the problem is, it got you entertained and it kept you watching to want to know the answer. And I think that's an important lesson for us to learn, because we all could use more curiosity. And if you read copywriting books, for example, Ray Edwards in his books talks about using curiosity in headlines, but also in bullet points and all of these things, because we humans want the answer to things. We want to resolve the story. So if you give me some curiosity in your ads and your marketing, I'm more likely to stick around because I want to know how it ends. So I think that's an important lesson, but I also loved that they did it without going too far. And I don't remember which ad it was, but there was one of the ads where like, it was not a Tide ad. It was some other brand. I was like, I have no idea what that was about. And they said, to learn more, go to. To me, that loses me. I think you need to use curiosity, but then once someone gets to the end of that piece of marketing, they need to understand it and get it. And I think that is a valuable lesson. I think Tide did that well. Now, another thing they did, and I don't know if it's possible always to do this. I think it's going to be hard, but this was a stroke of genius on their part. They used a hook that was so universal, meaning this ad is brought to you by Tide because of the clean clothes. And because that they use that and also had this unexpected nature to their ads, they managed to make you, at least me, wonder if every single ad from every single brand was one of their ads. So basically they used a hook that was so universal and put it together with unexpectedness that kept them top of mind, even when I was seeing ads from other people. So the point of that is, if you could come up with a way to have a hook that maybe your audience, when they see ads, maybe not from your competitors, but from other people in the same space or serving the same audience, where they think, well, is this an ad from him? If you can do that, if you think about it, you're going to get awareness and top of mindness even when you're not spending money. So that's something that they did fantastic. And if you can figure out a way to do that, that's got to be kind of the gold mine, the real way to get some great results. Now, so that's three things. Let's go to the fourth thing. The fourth thing, and the message I took, was they did something in a different way that was almost like the advice that we all hear as online entrepreneurs, to join the existing conversation rather than starting our own. And this was one of the ads. I think it was in the second half of the game, but it was a very particular ad. And I'm sitting there watching it with my family, and my extended family, brothers-in-law, et cetera. And we're watching it, and all of a sudden a Clydesdale comes on, and I turn over and say, shh, because I love the Clydesdale commercials. I love Budweiser's commercials. They're usually hilarious or very moving, and I want to see what happens. And so because of that, so I see this Clydesdale, and I immediately told people to be quiet, because I'm expecting, I had this ongoing conversation with Budweiser, in a sense, in this game, in the Super Bowl game, that I expect to see a Clydesdale and see a great ad. Well, Tide used that and got me to think about it, but then, oh wait, it's not. It's actually a Tide commercial. So they played on this existing conversation. And again, when you can work things in to get some value from people, when you can work these ideas in without having to be explicit and start a new conversation, then you can be fantastic. I do this in a lot of ways. One of the ways that I do it is when I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups, and anytime someone asks a question about, hey, where do you get your stock images from? Where do you get your pictures from, et cetera, I make sure to chime in on that conversation to talk about the lessons I've got and about the things you need to do legally, and maybe even to put a link to my ultimate stock image guide. And so rather than trying to get people to become aware of me by paying for advertising, et cetera, I find them where they are. They're having this conversation. Hey, how do I get stock images? And so what I say, hey, when you're doing that, make sure you consider these things. And that's a way that you can join the existing conversation. And again, Tide did that well, but I think you should think about how can you do that, and, find your audience where they are and join a conversation they're already having. So that was the fourth point. And then the last point, and this one, we've all heard this advice, but Tide did it really well. And when you think about the contrast, I think it really sticks out. And that is, they sold the results. They weren't selling the features of their product, and they weren't selling even the benefits. They were selling the results. And we hear this anytime someone talks about how to sell a course, for example. If you're creating an online course, they always say, sell the transformation. What's the transformation your client is going to get, or your customer is going to get? And if you look at sales page writing, for example, Ray Edwards, if you look at any of his sales pages, he's going to have a section where he gets the the audience to think about how great they're going to feel when. And so that's a common piece. If you look at the perfect webinar structure by Russell Brunson, there's some of that too. You're always selling this actual result. And how did Tide do that? Well, Tide did that. If you think about the typical detergent commercial, there's one of two things. Either number one, you see someone doing laundry, and then they talk about benefits and features and the color safe and all of that. Or you see an example where maybe, and Persil was another detergent that had an ad during the game. They show someone spill on themselves and then show the result. Okay, Tide didn't do any of that. Tide did this completely out of the box of saying, look, all you care about is that the clothes are clean. Hey, this ad is brought to you because these clothes are clean. So they sold the result. And because of that, it's actually so memorable, at least for me. And I think, the reviews I've seen, a lot of the outside people really love those commercials. And I think that's some of it. So those are kind of the 5 key lessons I got out of it. But I also wanted to kind of think more broadly and make the point that as an entrepreneur, you should be trying to learn from everywhere. Everybody has value that you can learn, even if they're not exactly like you. But you can also find people who are teaching, and you should do that. I mean, you should come and listen to me on my free stuff when I talk about intellectual property law, because I can give you value that you can't get otherwise. You should go and listen to people who are experts on podcasts talk about podcasting, and people who are experts on content marketing to talk about those, because these people know what they're doing and they've got insight. Even if you think you know, I think I know a lot of these things. I tune in and I listen. And that is something that we can always learn from people who are a bit further ahead of us. Even if they're only 6 months ahead of us on the journey, if they're ahead of us on this particular piece of the journey, we can learn. But the best is when you can get experts and get a bunch of people together. And so that's the other piece I wanted to transition to here, which is to invite you to join me and 40 other, it's more than 40, but 40 other expert entrepreneurs who have expertise in different areas at a virtual summit called the 2018 Infopreneur Summit. It is absolutely free to join. You get interviews with more than 40 experts talking about issues in a bunch of different areas. So talking about getting started. So remember, we talked about part of what was great about Tide's ad is that they had this cohesive story. So there's actually going to be a lot of people at this virtual summit who are experts in figuring out what is your story. Figuring out what your brand story is, what your personal story is, what your niche is, figuring all of that out. People who help entrepreneurs do this on a daily basis are going to be giving advice about that. But then also there will be people about email marketing and social media. So again, and that'll help you think through that piece. And once you have your story, how do you tell it? So there's that piece. But then there's the getting seen. How do you build your platform so that people will really start to know that you're out there? Then the exciting part, getting paid. How do you make money as an online entrepreneur? That's why we do this, obviously. So there's going to be great content about that issue and about that subject. And then the last piece is getting sustainable. And sustainable might seem a bit, you're thinking it's one thing. What it really is, it's about scaling. How do you create a business where you can actually sustain that business over time, given all the constraints of your life? So how do you build systems, processes, hire people? How do you do all of those things as you grow your business? So that's what's going on at the summit. Because I'm a speaker, I've gotten access to these interviews in advance. I've seen them. They're fantastic. I mean, there's some really great people speaking, including Dory Clark, who's a best-selling author. You've got Nicole Holland, who is a fantastic person to give advice about being guests on podcasts. That's where I first connected with her, but now I'm connected with her in her group, et cetera. You've got Bailey Richard, who's the host, who's going to be talking about the concept of infopreneurship and virtual summits. You've got all of these different experts in PR, experts in publishing, in self-publishing, and audiobooks, all of these different things. So you can go to this one free conference and get a lot of information about a lot of different areas that you potentially could use in your business. So it is an incredibly valuable summit. I recommend that you sign up for it. There's a link in the post here where you can do that. Like I said, it's free. There is an upgrade option. If you want to, you can purchase it, but you don't have to. You get a bunch of stuff for free. If you want to upgrade, you get a second interview from every person. You get some additional freebies and some other things like that. But you can sign up absolutely free and get a ton of great content. I've done a lot of virtual summits where I've attended, and I've learned a bunch every time I've gone. So I make a point to find great summits that I can attend because it's a great way to get free information and to really start learning things and building your business. So I would highly recommend that you join the summit. Click on the link in the post. It'll take you there. You can sign up. You can get registered. Again, it runs from February 19th to February 22nd. Each day, the interviews for that day will be posted, and you'll have 24 hours to listen to them. So I recommend you need to register now and then go through and figure out, okay, what do I want to make sure that I definitely listen to? Because there may be some subjects that you know you want, and others you're like, well, I don't need that one on that day. So I do that. And definitely do it by the 19th because that's when yours truly is speaking. If you have interest in getting a client agreement, one of the freebies, everybody who attends the summit, I give them the opportunity to take a free mini course about creating a client agreement. You'll get a template form. So it's my template form that's included in my paid courses. And you'll get a course where I walk through, why do you need it? What generally to include, and then also show you how to take that template form and customize it for your business. So again, that's a form that most lawyers would charge you $200 or more just for the form. So you're going to get that for signing up for a free summit. So that pays for the summit in and of itself. Of course, you don't have to pay, but it makes it worth its while for you to take the summit. So I definitely highly recommend that for you. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. But what I would highly recommend that you take the summit, take this free resource, take the free information so that you can start building your business. That's it for now. I'm going to sign off. I'll be back later in this week. Last week I had a post and then I did a live about copyright myths. Those were largely about things where you could step on landmines and hurt yourself. Later this week, I'll be doing kind of the opposite on that, which is how do you protect your own? What do you need to do on the side to protect your copyright, stop copycats from taking it? I think that's something that entrepreneurs like you want to hear. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on later this week. So be on the lookout. Post will probably go up on Thursday, hopefully, and then I'll have a live on Friday where I'll talk about it as well. That's it for now. I'm Bobby Klink signing off.